I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to think of the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water when it came into theaters a few years ago, where I did see it. For example, it had not only been over 10 years since the first one, but at the same time, even though I hadn't been watching SpongeBob regularly, I'd heard and seen clips of the constant decay, of the extreme decay the show had had in the recent years. So, yeah, I had concerns going in, but at the same time I heard it was getting far better reviews than the first movie did, and it was doing well at the box office. And sure enough, eventually I went to see the movie, and let me just say, it's not only a good sequel to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, but it is a far superior film to other animated Nickelodeon movies over the years. And yeah, again, the fact that this is something that something you didn't expect, and something that just really fired on almost all cylinders, if you ask me, I think is a pleasant surprise. Here's the plot. A pirate by the name of Burgerbeard, played by Antonio Banderas, has recovered a mysterious magical book from the island that's right above Bikini Bottom, reluctantly telling the story to a bunch of seagulls who are on his ship. He reads about how SpongeBob, played by Tom Kenny, and Patrick, played by Bill Fagerbakke, prevent a few schemes from by Plankton, played by Sheldon Plankton, played by Mr. Lawrence once again, to steal the Krabby Patty formula. It seems like Plankton has exhausted every option at this point, but then when he's able to actually sneak into Krab's safe and nearly steals the formula successfully, the Krusty Krab is locked down. SpongeBob and him have a tug of war over the bottle with the formula, but then all of a sudden it vanishes into thin air. Krabs instantly blames Plankton and believes him to have stolen it, despite Plankton's protests that he didn't do it, and SpongeBob being the only witness. And SpongeBob, desperate to keep Plankton from being blamed, ends up helping him escape, and the two set off as fugitives while, without the Krabby Patty, Bikini Bottom falls into an apocalyptic wasteland. Turns into an apocalyptic wasteland. So SpongeBob and Plankton seek a means of trying to assemble a team and in order to try to track down the formula and restore Bikini Bottom to order. And of course, given the title, this will ultimately take them to above the surface. Will they be successful? So, yeah, what I would think about this is, well, this movie actually has a major problem, and Pie Guy Rules has pointed this out already, but here it is, flat out. And it's actually not a problem with the actual movie, even though it's something that really sucks. The marketing for this movie. This film gave a whole lot of important plot points and details away in the trailer, such as, well, that they end up going to the surface. I mean, granted, the title says that, but you get the idea. Not to mention that that when they do go to the surface, it switches from 2D animation to computer animated CG animation, and they also reveal who the villain is. Without giving it away, even if you haven't seen the trailers or the ads for this movie, it's not hard to figure out, given the way that the story is structured. But at the same time, I think that the person they do pick to be the villain does work. For what they're given to do, and to have somebody other than Plankton be the main antagonist in something SpongeBob related, I think is something worth admiring and appreciating. And yeah, I mean, this movie, it does feel large on scale, much like how the first one felt large on scale, but also felt small. But at the same time, this does feel bigger, and it's not just simply because more live action is more live action is converted into the story, but there's also the matter of just it feels like there's a higher stake here. I mean, granted, the same thing is at risk. And there's also the idea that this is supposed to be a prequel to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, because that was always meant, the first film was always meant to be the end of the series. But yeah, because this is such a better film, I want to think of this as taking place after, and I kind of fill in the gaps in my head as to how it would take place after. Also, another thing is, yeah, the trailers and the ads make you think that the entire movie will be half live action and half CG, but with only a few parts being 2D. But no, the majority of this film is in 2D animation. And to see that in 2015 of all times, that is a rarity unto itself. And it's really good 2D animation too. It's a real shame that you would have thought that because of the success of this film that they try to implement more 2D animation again all around everywhere. Anyway, even though it's just their voices, Tom Kenny and Mr. Lawrence have good chemistry together as SpongeBob and Plankton. Antonio Banderas, he is yucking it up like crazy in this role, and yeah, you can tell he's having fun with it, and you enjoy watching him do whatever the heck he wants. And yeah, a lot of the gags are just, again, really work and really get a lot of laughs. I mean, granted, they don't always make sense. For example, there's a sequence where Plankton goes into SpongeBob's head, and he encounters all kinds of cutesy, like, sweet things that horrify him because he's used to evil things. And it doesn't make sense, and it kind of gives you the sense that this movie's a fever dream, but at the same time, it's just so nonsensical that it actually still makes you laugh and be entertained, even though you wonder why it's even there. Not to mention the movie ends with a epic rap battle after everything's been concluded, just for the purpose that they had the guys who do epic rap battles in history. So, yeah. And not to mention, like, Mike Mitchell did the live action sequences, and they come off really cartoonish, but then again, for the world of SpongeBob, that is appropriate, and that works for that reason. I mean, some of these chase sequences, when they're on land, or action sequences, or such and such, like, for example, they ride a bike past a guy on a skateboard, who then rides straight into a street sign. And just the physicality of that scene really makes it work, and really impresses you. Not to mention just the way that the bike going down the street with them on it just is such a funny visual unto itself. And yeah, I also think of how the movie could have, I suppose, benefited from maybe not having so many logical issues. Like, for example, Krabs trusts SpongeBob. Why in the world would he not take SpongeBob's word for it that it wasn't Plankton, and that what exactly happened did happen? And yeah, again, Krabs just comes off as unlikable compared to Plankton. I mean, yeah, Plankton's destructive and kind of a menace, but but the thing is, he's not a sore loser. Well, he's kind of a sore loser, but I think Krabs is even more of a sore winner. And that just rubs me the wrong way every time that happens, because Krabs always has the need to have to taunt Plankton every time he fails, no matter how close Plankton came or how close he didn't come. And yeah, not to mention the fact that, again, the townspeople, everybody, the entire town falls apart just because the Krabby Patty's gone. But again, this is a movie that you're not supposed to question those things. I mean, is it an insane experience? It absolutely is. It's over the top, it's absurd, but at the same time, the charm really pulls out of it for those reasons alone. And again, I'm on the verge of saying I love this movie because it really just impressed me every second with how colorful it was, with how vibrant it was, with how funny it was. And yeah, I really, really wish we could get another SpongeBob movie like this, but unfortunately, with the passing of Stephen Hillenburg and with the fact that the next movie, It's a Wonderful Sponge, is going to be a prequel to both of these films, if not to the entire series, it's hard to say exactly what exactly that film is going to give us. I mean, granted, I'm going to keep an open mind, but at the same time, if you're thinking in terms of a SpongeBob film that really does deserve the moniker of SpongeBob film, well, first one works well enough, but this one hits the spot.